Settle in now, sleepy cuties. Close your eyes. Get cozy under your blanket. Let your mind drift far, far away to the peaceful world of Pokémon. The moon is high above the quiet trees of Pallet Town. The wind is a soft whisper through the leaves. Tonight begins the gentle tale of a friendship that began with sparks and stubbornness and grew into something the world would never forget. It was a quiet morning in Pallet Town. In a small house behind a garden of wildflowers, a young boy named Ash Ketchum was sleeping soundly, snuggled into his pillow. His clock ticked softly on the wall. Inside his dreams, he was already a Pokémon master. His eyes sparkled as he called out to legendary Pokémon among soft clouds and glowing forests. Suddenly, the alarm rang. Ash sat up, his hair a fluffy mess, his eyes still filled with sleep and dreams. "I overslept," he mumbled, leaping out of bed. Today was the day he'd waited for all his life. The day he would receive his very first Pokémon. Not far away, Professor Oak was preparing Pokeballs on a table. 3 of them sat in a row, each one holding a special companion for a new trainer. The lab was quiet, filled with soft morning light. Outside, the sky was still pale with early fog. Pidgey cooed gently from the trees. The streets of Pallet Town were still and calm. But Ash was sprinting. His pajamas flapped as he ran, barefoot and wild. His heart pounded, filled with excitement. He imagined his first Pokémon running beside him, a loyal friend, a teammate, a dream come to life. Would it be Charmander, so warm and brave? Or Bulbasaur, calm, steady, and strong? Or maybe Squirtle, cool and clever with a playful grin? When Ash reached the lab, he burst through the doors, out of breath and full of hope. Professor Oak looked up from his work and smiled kindly. "Ash," he said softly, "you're late. The others already came." Ash's smile faded slightly. One by one, Oak opened the Pokeballs. Each one was empty. Ash stood quietly for a moment. Then Oak reached for one last ball. "There is one more," he said, "but it's a little different." The ball opened. A soft glow filled the room. There stood a small yellow Pokémon. Round cheeks, pointed ears, bright black eyes watching carefully. It was Pikachu. Not what Ash had imagined. But something about Pikachu's quiet stare felt curious. Felt electric. Ash knelt down, offering his hand. "Hi there," he whispered. "I'm Ash. I guess we're partners now." Pikachu turned its back. Ash smiled awkwardly. "Well, we'll work on that." Oak handed Ash the Pokeball. But Pikachu jumped away. It didn't want to go inside. Didn't want to be caught. Ash tried again. He held out a small bunch of berries. "I heard Pokémon like these," he said softly. Pikachu sniffed, paused, then gave a tiny spark. Ash's hair puffed up, frizzy and wild. He laughed. "Okay. No berries, then." The road ahead stretched long and quiet. Golden fields on both sides. Clouds drifting slowly above. Ash walked. Pikachu followed a few steps behind. Not too close. Not too far. "I know we'll be great friends," Ash said. Pikachu didn't answer. But it didn't shock him again. That was something. The wind moved gently through the grass. Far away, a butterfree floated by. Ash glanced down. Pikachu's tail twitched as it walked. Steady. Quiet. The sun rose slowly in the sky. Its warm light spilled across the road. 2 small figures moved across the land, side by side. One hopeful boy, one stubborn Pokémon, and something between them, just beginning to grow. The sky was soft with pale morning light. Ash and Pikachu walked quietly along the winding path, leading out of Pallet Town. Neither of them spoke. Ash glanced over from time to time, but Pikachu stayed a few steps behind, its eyes fixed ahead, tail flicking now and then. Fields of golden grass swayed on both sides of the road. Tiny Pokémon rustled in the underbrush. A caterpie peeked out from a leafy branch, and a flock of Pidgey flew lazily overhead. Ash slowed his pace, letting Pikachu catch up. Still, Pikachu kept his distance. Ash smiled gently. He wasn't worried. Not yet. Friendship didn't always happen in a single moment. Sometimes it grew like a seed in the soil, quiet, unseen, but always reaching toward the light. A few hours passed. The sun climbed higher. Then slowly, the light dimmed. Clouds rolled in, soft and gray. The breeze turned cool. Ash looked up. Raindrops began to fall. Light at first, like tiny taps on the leaves. Then steadier. Ash pulled his jacket tight around his shoulders. He glanced at Pikachu again, whose fur was starting to dampen in the drizzle. "We should find shelter," Ash said softly. Up ahead there was a wide tree with low branches. Its roots curled over the ground like a blanket. Ash knelt beneath it, patting the dry space beside him. "Come on, Pikachu. You'll get soaked out there." Pikachu paused in the rain. It hesitated. Then slowly it stepped under the branches, shaking its fur, droplets flying in every direction. Ash laughed quietly, brushing rain from his cheeks. He pulled a cloth from his backpack and gently offered it to Pikachu. But Pikachu gave him a small look, not angry, just distant, and turned its head. Ash placed the cloth down between them. Not too close. Just there, in case. The rain whispered softly against the leaves. Ash sat quietly, knees tucked up, watching the path ahead slowly fade in the mist. In the distance, thunder rumbled, deep and low. Not a storm, not yet. Just the sky clearing its throat. Ash leaned back against the trunk of the tree. He reached into his bag and pulled out a tiny notebook. Inside were clumsy sketches of Pokémon. Some familiar, some imagined. He flipped through the pages slowly. "You know," he said gently, without looking up, "I've dreamed about this day for so long." Pikachu tilted one ear, listening. "I thought it would be perfect. That my Pokémon and I would be best friends right away. That we'd laugh, battle, run together." He paused, smiling at the thought. "But maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe it takes time, that's okay." A soft sigh escaped him. He looked out at the road again, where the rain was starting to lighten. "I don't mind the wait," he said. "I just want to know you." Pikachu shifted slightly. Its fur was still damp, but its ears were relaxed, its eyes softer. Ash leaned his head against the bark, eyes half closed. "I bet you've been alone a lot. Maybe it's hard to trust someone right away." He let the words drift away like a feather on the wind. A quiet moment passed. Then gently, Pikachu stepped closer. Not too much, just a little. It sat beside the cloth Ash had laid down. Not on it, but near it. Ash didn't say a word. He just smiled and let the rain speak for them both. In the trees above, a spear owl let out a sharp cry, then flew off into the gray. Pikachu's ears twitched again. Its eyes followed the movement. Ash noticed. Spearow. They're territorial, I think. I read that in one of Professor Oak's books. The rain slowed. The road began to shine with puddles. Reflections shimmered across the surface. Ash stood slowly, brushing off his pants. He looked down at Pikachu, his voice gentle. "Ready?" Pikachu gave a small blink. Then, after a pause, took a few steps forward. They walked on. Not fast, not far, but closer. Up ahead, the road curved past a small creek. A family of pollywags swam quietly in the water. The rain had freshened the air. The clouds began to part, revealing soft beams of afternoon light. Ash glanced over. Pikachu was walking right beside him now. Not ahead, not behind. Right there. Ash smiled. A little closer, a little softer. The bond was beginning to glow. The sun peeked out, warming the wet road as Ash and Pikachu walked on. Each step was slow, but a little more in sync than before. The silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was quiet, yes, but peaceful, comfortable. Ash looked up at the clouds, the last traces of rain still clinging to the edges of the sky. Everything smelled clean and new. The earth was soft under his shoes. They came to a wide bend in the road, where tall grass brushed at their ankles, and the trees grew closer together. Somewhere in the distance, a gentle rustle. A rustle, then a shriek. Spearow. One, then two, then more. Their wings sliced through the air as they circled above. Ash looked up, squinting into the sun. The same Spearow from earlier. And they didn't look happy. Pikachu stiffened. Its ears went flat, and its fur sparked slightly. Ash held out an arm, his voice calm but firm. Don't worry, I'm here. A sudden dive from the sky, a Spearow swept low, wings out, eyes sharp. Pikachu jumped back, cheeks glowing. Ash turned, shielding his partner. Another swoop. Then another. A whole flock now. They needed to move. Ash scooped Pikachu up, cradling the small body close to his chest. He didn't hesitate. He just ran. Down the path, through the trees, past rustling branches and startled Pokémon. Behind them, the wings beat harder. The screeches got louder. Rain puddles splashed underfoot. Ash didn't look back. I've got you, he whispered, holding the Pikachu tighter. It's okay. Just hold on. Pikachu was quiet. But its small paws gripped Ash's shirt. It didn't fight. It didn't shock him. They ran until the forest opened up again. Up ahead, a small hill. Beyond it, a river. Ash reached the slope, his breath coming in short bursts. The sky above was rumbling again. Dark clouds had returned. Not gentle this time. Thunder. Sharp and loud. Ash slipped in the mud, nearly falling. But he held Pikachu close. They reached the top, and then lightning. A bolt across the sky. Blinding. Then the Spearow were there again. All around them. Crying out, diving low. Ash turned, facing the flock. He didn't flinch. Even with the thunder above and the wings around him. He looked down at Pikachu, his voice low and steady. I know we just met. I know you don't trust me yet. But I trust you. And I'm not going anywhere. Pikachu stared at him, its eyes wide. Something soft flickered. They're not fear. Not yet. Something else. Ash took a step forward, still shielding it. The Spearow circled again. And then one dove straight at them. Pikachu squirmed in Ash's arms. Ash set it down gently. Okay? If you want to fight, I'm with you. The wind blew harder. The grass bent low. Pikachu stood still, tail raised, cheeks crackling. The air around it shifted, buzzed, hummed. Then a flash, a soundless blink of light. Electricity. Pure, brilliant, wild. It arced into the sky, a shield of sparks. The Spearow shrieked, scattered, flew back into the storm clouds. The hilltop was silent again. Only only the wind remained. Ash watched in awe, his heart full, not of fear, but of something warm and wide and wonderful. He dropped to one knee beside Pikachu. "You protected us," he whispered. "Thank you." Pikachu blinked, then took a slow step forward. And another, until it leaned gently into Ash's side. No sparks, no hesitation, just closeness. Ash stayed still, eyes closing briefly. Raindrops tapped against the grass again. But he didn't feel the cold. Beside him, Pikachu was warm, real, there. And that was enough. The bond wasn't just beginning anymore. It was forming, slowly, beautifully, like a quiet flame in the rain. The rain softened to a quiet mist. Ash and Pikachu stood side by side. On the quiet hilltop, the storm slowly drifting away behind them. The Spearow were gone. The thunder had passed. And the wind, now gentle, brushed across the grass like a lullaby. Ash looked down at Pikachu, whose fur still sparked faintly in the fading stormlight. Their eyes met no longer strangers. Something had changed, not with words, but in action, in trust. In that moment when Pikachu had stood to protect them both, Ash knelt and held out his arms. Pikachu took one step forward, then another, and curled quietly into the space between Ash's hands. Ash smiled softly. And then, almost without thinking, he scooped Pikachu up and tucked it gently into his jacket. The small body was warm against his chest. "I'm really glad you're with me," he whispered. Pikachu didn't shock him, didn't pull away. It stayed close, eyes half closed, listening to the rhythm of Ash's heartbeat. They made their way down the hill, through low trees and soft puddles, until they came upon an old wooden shed tucked beneath a willow tree. Its roof leaned slightly to one side. Its door creaked gently in the breeze. Ash pushed it open. Inside, dry hay blanketed the floor. There were a few tools left in the corners, an old cartwheel, a basket, a wooden crate. He laid his jacket on the hay and placed Pikachu softly in the center. Then he sat beside it, his back against the wooden wall. For a long moment, they just listened. To the pattering raindrops on the roof, the rustle of tree branches outside, the hush that follows a storm. Pikachu stretched out its paws and curled up close to Ash's leg. Ash reached down, resting his fingers gently near the soft fur. He didn't stroke it. He just let his presence be known, and Pikachu didn't move away. A bond like this wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Ash leaned his head back and closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. His body relaxed into the scent of hay and rain. He was tired, but it was the good kind of tired. The kind that comes after something brave, something real. Outside, the storm clouds continued to fade. Evening light broke through soft and golden, like a yawn at the end of the day. Pikachu's eyes closed as well. Its tail curled gently around its body. It gave a quiet, contented sigh. No sparks, just warmth. Ash opened his backpack slowly, careful not to make too much noise. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a small lunch his mom had packed. He set out a rice ball and a few sliced berries, then nudged a piece toward Pikachu. Pikachu blinked sleepily. It sniffed the offering, then slowly nibbled one of the berries. Ash smiled. He didn't say anything. He just took a bite of his own rice ball and chewed slowly. The sun continued to lower outside the shed, painting the wooden walls with gold light. Pikachu finished the berry, then stepped quietly into Ash's lap, and curled up without a sound. Ash froze for a moment, not from fear, but from wonder. Then he reached down and gently, carefully, rested a hand on Pikachu's back. Just once. A deep, contented breath passed between them. No more running. No more thunder. Just two souls, finding comfort in shared silence. They sat like that until the sky turned violet and the stars began to peek through the branches overhead. Ash looked out at the darkening forest. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we'll start fresh." Pikachu stirred slightly, but didn't open its eyes. It was safe. It was home. And Ash. He finally felt he wasn't alone. The last light of day melted slowly into night. The little shed nestled beneath the willow tree was wrapped in silence, the kind of silence that holds you like a blanket. Ash sat still, his back against the wall, Pikachu curled up asleep in his lap. Their breathing had synced, slow and quiet, like waves brushing gently against the shore. Outside, the stars blinked to life, one by one, casting their silver glow across the sleeping forest. A soft breeze whispered through the cracks in the shed walls. Ash looked down at his small companion, the one who once refused to trust him, who now slept without fear, tucked into the quiet of his arms. Something swelled in Ash's chest, something tender and full. He didn't try to name it. He just felt it. Fully, gratefully. After a while, Pikachu stirred. Its ears twitched slightly. Then it stretched its legs, yawned a tiny yawn, and looked up at Ash with gentle, sleepy eyes. Ash smiled. "Hey," he whispered. "Did you dream?" Pikachu blinked slowly, then hopped lightly from his lap to the hay-covered floor. It shook its fur, tiny sparks flickering off its cheeks, not wild, not startled, just part of who it was. Ash stood and stretched as well, his arms reaching high above his head, his body relaxed from the rest. Outside, the moonlight draped over everything, the trees, the road, the little shed. Everything seemed quieter now. Even the forest was hushed. Ash opened the door, and together they stepped out into the cool night air. Their footsteps were soft against the damp grass. The road ahead shimmered with silver light. Far above, a noctowl glided silently between trees, its wings moving like breath through the sky. Ash looked at Pikachu. "Let's walk a little." Pikachu nodded. It stayed close now, close without needing to be called. There was no leash, no command, just closeness born of choice. They followed the moonlit path through low hills and wildflowers, their shadows stretching long behind them. The world felt bigger at night, but not scarier, just deeper, full of hidden stories and sleeping things. A pair of oddish waddled quietly through the grass. A jigglypuff dozed beneath a tree, its song unsung tonight. Ash and Pikachu walked without talking. They didn't need words anymore. The silence between them was peaceful, like music only they could hear. Eventually, they came to a small clearing. The grass was soft and thick, and in the center stood a single flat stone. Ash stepped up and sat on the stone, his legs crossed, his hands resting in his lap. Pikachu hopped up beside him and leaned gently against his shoulder. The stars above were countless glimmering, blinking, distant, and warm. Ash tilted his head back to look at them. He could barely believe this was only the first day. So much had happened. So much had already changed. "I was scared, you know," he whispered. "Not of the Spearow. Not even of being alone out here. I was scared I wouldn't be good enough for you." Pikachu looked up, its eyes soft and reflective. "But you gave me a chance," Ash said. "And now, I just want to do right by you. Every day." Pikachu gave a quiet, high-pitched sound. A soft one. Not a battle cry. Just a sound of presence. Of understanding. They sat on the stone, wrapped in stillness, their silhouettes outlined in the starlight. Below them, the forest sighed in its sleep. Above them, the sky drifted quietly onward. Ash yawned, his body beginning to relax again. He stood slowly, his legs a little stiff from sitting. Pikachu stretched too, tail swaying gently. They made their way back to the little shed, footsteps muffled in the dew-covered grass. Back inside, the air was warmer. The hay still smelled faintly of sun and sleep. Ash lay down on his jacket. Pikachu nestled into the crook of his arm. He didn't speak this time. He didn't need to. He just closed his eyes, listening to the night, and the tiny breath of the Pokémon beside him. The stars stayed with Themselland and kind, and in that quiet space between dreams, something strong had taken root. They were no longer strangers, no longer uncertain. They were something new now. They were friends. The sky began to shift not with sound, but with light. Soft at first, just a glow behind the trees, spilling slowly across the fields like warm milk over velvet. Inside the little shed beneath the willow tree, Ash stirred. Not because of noise, but because the day itself was beginning to rise. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking away dreams. The world felt still gentle in a way only early morning could offer. Beside him, Pikachu was already awake, its eyes half-lidded, its breath steady and calm. The two lay there in silence, bathed in the golden hush of a new day. Ash turned his head. "Morning," he whispered. Pikachu blinked up at him, then stretched, softly pressing its side into Ash's shoulder. No sparks. Only warmth. They sat up together, moving slowly, unrushed. Ash stepped out of the shed first, his shoes brushing the dew-kissed grass. Pikachu followed, its fur catching the morning light like threads of gold. The forest had changed. Not in shape, but in feeling. It no longer seemed big in the way that made you feel small. Now it felt like a world that welcomed Themapath waiting for their footprints. They stood together in the quiet clearing. Bird Pokémon chirped softly from the trees. Sunlight dripped through the leaves, painting patterns on the earth. Ash knelt down. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at Pikachu, not as a stranger, not even as just a Pokémon, but as a partner. "Ready to go?" he asked. Pikachu gave a small nod. No big gestures, just enough. Ash smiled. They started walking again, this time side by side from the very first step. Their feet brushed gently over the dirt road, leaving faint tracks in the soil, and they didn't know where they would go, or who they would meet, or what battles would come. But it didn't matter. What mattered was the bond, quiet, deep and real. The kind that didn't need words or promises or perfect moments, just trust and time and love. They walked into the light together, under skies wide and full of promise. A boy and a Pokémon. Two hearts, now moving as one. And now, sleepy one, your journey has come to its close. Let the warmth of this story linger around you soft and still, like a gentle hug beneath the stars. Ash and Pikachu have only just begun their great adventure. And your dreams, too, are waiting. So rest now. Let your thoughts drift far and quiet. And sleep peacefully. Good night. Shh. It's time to rest, sleepy cuties. Get cozy, settle under your blanket, and let the world grow soft around you. Close your eyes, take a breath, and let's drift far away to the hills and woods of the Pokémon world, where stories of friendship begin quietly, like embers waiting to glow. Tonight we begin a tale about a little flame that refused to go out. A flame left out in the cold, still hoping, still waiting. This is the story of Charmander, and how even in the rain, a single heart can keep burning for someone to believe in. The sky was overcast that day. The wind moved low and slow over the hilltops, and in the distance, clouds gathered in shades of gray. On a lonely rock beneath a slanted tree, a small Pokémon sat with its head bowed, its tail curled in tightly to protect the flame at its tip. Charmander. Its orange scales were soaked with rain. Its body shivered with each gust of wind. But it didn't move, didn't cry out, didn't run for shelter. It waited, still and silent, eyes always fixed on the winding path below the hill. Because once, not long ago, someone left it there, with the promise that they would return. That promise was all Charmander had. Far below the hill, Ash, Brock, and Misty were walking along the path, their jackets damp from the drizzle, their steps light on the muddy road. Ash was talking excitedly about something. A new Pokémon he'd read about, maybe a rare one. Misty rolled her eyes. Brock kept one hand over his map to keep it dry. But as they turned a bend near the base of the hill, they saw it just for a moment. A flicker of flame, faint, small. "Did you see that?" Ash asked. Brock nodded. "Looked like a tail, a fire type." Ash's eyes lit up. Without thinking, he stepped off the road, his feet sinking into wet grass as he made his way up the slope. The rain was heavier up there, the wind louder. But the flame stayed steady, just barely visible under the shelter of the tree. And then Ash saw it. A Charmander, curled up, shivering, but not moving. He stepped closer, slowly. "Hey, little guy." Charmander didn't lift its head. Ash kneeled. Raindrops slid down his cheeks and jacket. He reached into his bag and pulled out a cloth, held it gently over the tail flame, trying to block the rain. Charmander opened one eye, then quickly looked away. Ash's voice stayed soft. "We're not here to hurt you. We just saw you sitting here. Are you okay?" Charmander didn't answer. It looked at the path again. Still waiting. Misty caught up. She knelt beside Ash. It looks sick. Its tail flame is weak. Brock arrived last, looking concerned. He crouched down, his voice low. "I think it's been here a long time." Ash glanced at his friends. "Let's take it with us. We can help." But Charmander shook its head, weakly. It didn't move. Didn't run. Just stayed. Brock's face grew serious. "If a Charmander's flame goes out, it won't survive." That made Ash pause. He looked down again. Rain dripping from his hair. Charmander was still staring at the path. Still waiting. Ash reached slowly into his bag and pulled out a small packet of food and set it down beside the rock. "If you change your mind, we'll be at the Pokémon Center down the road," he said. He placed the cloth beside the flame again and then stood. He looked at Charmander one last time, then turned, walking slowly down the hill. The others followed. The rain continued. Behind them, on the hill beneath the tree, Charmander blinked slowly. Its tail gave a weak flicker. Its eyes drooped, but it stayed awake, still waiting. still believing. It was morning, and the sun was still rubbing its eyes. The trees swayed with barely a breeze, just enough to rock the leaves like a lullaby. Ash stretched in his sleeping bag, slow and quiet, his breath still full of dreams. Pikachu lay curled beside him, a tiny golden curl of fluff, its ears twitching in sleep. A few feet away, in the early hush of the woods, Butterfree rested on a branch. Its wings moved gently, not to fly, just to feel the morning air. The soft pink of the sunrise touched its wings, and they shimmered like flower petals in the light. Ash sat up, yawning into the quiet. He looked toward Butterfree and smiled. "You've been up early," he said, still whispering with sleep. Butterfree drifted down slowly, landing next to him with a gentle flutter. Its wings didn't even stir the leaves. Ash opened a small bag and pulled out a berry for Pikachu and another for Butterfree. "You always like the sweet one," he said, offering it on his palm. Butterfree chirped, soft and grateful, and nibbled quietly. The morning was calm. No rush, no battles. Just the sounds of nature waking up. Pikachu stretched and joined them, tail swaying lazily behind. The three sat together for a while, watching the clouds turn from gray to gold to blue. Butterfree floated up again, higher this time, just stretching its wings, testing the wind. Ash watched it quietly. He remembered the day they met, how scared Butterfree had been, how he'd tried to catch it, how wild and free it had seemed back then. But time changed things, not in a loud way, in a slow, warm way like sun on your back, or the soft comfort of routine. Now Butterfree stayed close by, not in a pokeball, not because it had to, but because it wanted to. Still, something in Ash's chest felt light today, as if something was shifting. Not bad, just different. The wind picked up a little more, and Butterfree spun gently in it, circling above the trees, its wings catching sunlight like stained glass. Ash leaned back on his hands and smiled. "You've gotten strong," he said. "Stronger than when we started." Butterfree chirped again, hovering nearby, and for a moment it felt like the beginning of something new. Not just a day, but something bigger. The kind of morning that feels like a memory before it even ends. The air had a shimmer to it that day. Not just light, but movement. Like something unseen was beginning to stir. Ash packed his bag slowly, the usual rhythm of zippers and folded maps, while Pikachu trotted ahead, sniffing at wildflowers that dotted the path. Butterfree flew just above them, gliding on invisible winds, circling trees and pausing on low branches. They weren't far from the sea now, and even though the water wasn't yet in view, the wind already smelled like it. Salt and distance, mixed with soft grass and summer. As they reached a rise in the hill, the trees thinned, and then they saw it. The sky. And it was full. Not with clouds, but with Butterfree. Dozens, maybe more, drifting gently over the ocean breeze. Soft colors. Wings in shades of pale blue, dusky violet, even rose gold. They didn't fly like birds. They didn't rush. They floated, sailed, as if sleepwalking through the air. Ash stepped closer to the edge, his breath catching. Pikachu froze at his side. Even Butterfree stopped mid-flight and hovering quietly. They watched. The wild Butterfree were gliding in soft loops, dancing around one another, pairing off two by two. Ash spoke, his voice barely a whisper. A migration. Butterfree inched forward, as if drawn by something it didn't fully understand. Its wings twitched with thought. Not flapping, just shifting ready. Ash glanced at it. He saw the way Butterfree's gaze followed the others. Not with envy, not with longing, but with recognition. Like it had always known this moment would come. They're looking for a partner, Ash said softly. That's what they do. They fly together and find the one. Butterfree floated higher, wings tilting toward the sky. The light caught it just right, a little rainbow flicker in the corner of Ash's eye. For a long moment, they all stood still, boy, Pokémon, and the sky full of drifting wings. And then, Butterfree called out. A soft, clear sound. Not loud, not rushed. Like a question, or a hello. Far in the distance, another Butterfree turned and answered. Ash didn't speak, didn't move. He just watched. His heart beat a little slower, a little heavier. Pikachu leaned against his leg, quiet, understanding. Butterfree hovered close to Ash again. Its wings brushed his shoulder, just once. Ash reached up and touched its small, warm body light as air, but filled with so much meaning. You can go if you want to, he said. I'll be okay. Butterfree paused, hovering just above his head now, as if deciding something. The wind picked up. It smelled stronger now of open skies and faraway dreams. Butterfree turned toward the flock, and with a single soft stroke of its wings, it glided forward toward the others. Ash watched it go, his eyes following every flutter. Not with sadness. Not yet. Just with quiet and a gentle knowing. Some love stays with you, even as it flies away. The sky had turned golden. It wasn't quite afternoon, but not morning anymore either. That quiet middle, where everything feels like a held breath. Still, soft, balanced. Butterfree flew among the others, not rushing, not pushing ahead, just drifting, its wings catching the light like glass. Ash stood at the cliff's edge, watching from far below. Pikachu sat beside him, his little paw resting on Ash's shoe. They didn't say much. Some goodbyes don't need words. Above them, the flock of Butterfree moved in long, slow spirals of ballet of color and wind, each one seeking, glancing, turning, looking for the one. Butterfree moved gently through them, eyes wide and hopeful, not desperate, just open. And then it saw her. She was gliding along the upper breeze, alone, her wings a soft rose, color-pale pink, with shimmering tips, like petals after the rain. She flew differently than the others, slower, more curious. Her turns were thoughtful, her glances gentle. Butterfree turned toward her, his heart fluttering, even faster than his wings. Their paths crossed once, then again, and on the third pass, they paused, right there in midair, held aloft by the soft winds, watching one another, just a few feet apart. The pink Butterfree tilted her wings, a soft, playful move, like a smile made of flight. Ash watched from the ground, his eyes wide, his heart still. Is that her? He whispered. Butterfree flew in a slow circle around her. She followed. They mirrored each other, slowly at first, then a little faster, spinning together through the sunlit sky, as if they'd always known each other, as if they'd been waiting for this moment since they first learned how to fly. Ash smiled a small, warm smile. He felt it deep in his chest, like a glow, a quiet yes. Pikachu chirped gently beside him. They found each other, Ash whispered, just like they were supposed to. High above, The two Butterfree flew together now, not just near one another, but in rhythm, wings beating as one. Their dance was slow, then faster, then slowing again. And at the height of their spiral, the pink Butterfree touched four wings with just for a moment, a greeting, a choice, a beginning. The sun caught their wing and painted the sky around them in soft gold and rose. Below, Ash sat down on the grass, his heart full, his eyes a little misty, but his smile never faded. He didn't say goodbye yet, not out loud. That part would come soon. But for now, this moment was just for them, for two little hearts in the sky who had finally found what they were looking for. The afternoon sun was beginning to dip, tilting westward, casting the trees in long, soft shadows. It was still warm, but the kind of warm that says, it's almost time to rest. Ash stayed at the edge of the cliff, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes on the sky. The sea below shimmered, its waves small and quiet like the whole ocean was breathing in sleep. Above, Butterfree flew with her. They moved together now, not in a rush, not in a dance, but in that calm, knowing way that close friends do. Their wings almost touched, but not quite. Their glances didn't search anymore. They had found what they needed to find. Ash watched them with a soft stillness. He hadn't said anything in a long time. Neither had Pikachu, who now lay quietly beside him, tail curled around its small frame, its eyes half closed, but still watching. There was a peace to the moment, but beneath it, something bittersweet, because Ash knew. He could feel it, in his chest, in his breath, in the silence that had settled all around. It was time. Butterfree floated down slowly, leaving the sky behind just for a little while. It came to rest right in front of Ash, its wings folding gently, its eyes calm, but full of something more. Ash stood. He looked into those eyes, big and kind, the same ones that had once been so scared, back when it was just a tiny Caterpie, hiding in the trees. He remembered everything. The early days, the battles, the growth. The first time Butterfree learned to fly. The first time it chose to stay by his side. And now, this moment, the moment where love wasn't holding on, but letting go. Ash knelt down. He reached out slowly, and Butterfree leaned into his touch. I guess this is it, Ash whispered. He tried to smile, tried not to let his voice shake. You really found someone special, didn't you? Butterfree chirped softly. A low, warm sound. Ash let out a slow breath. He didn't want to cry. Not yet. Because this wasn't a goodbye filled with sadness. It was filled with love, with pride, with everything they had been through together. You'll be okay, he said. And she will too. You'll both be amazing out there. Butterfree's wings fluttered once. Not to fly, just to feel. Ash leaned forward, and for a brief moment, they were closer than they had ever been. Not in battle, not in training, but in heart. He placed his hand gently against Butterfree's small chest. I love you, buddy, he whispered. So much. Butterfree's eyes shimmered. The sun caught its wing, turning them golden again. Ash stepped back slowly. No words now, just a nod. Butterfree turned, looked once more at the path they had taken to get here. Then up, then forward. Pikachu stood beside Ash now, and its ears drooping just a little, but its eyes bright. Together, they watched Butterfree rise, not in a rush, not in sorrow, but in peace. Higher and higher until it joined her again, their wings catching the last orange light of day. They flew side by side, together, free. And Ash, he just watched, hand over his heart, eyes soft, knowing. When you love something, you never really lose it, even when you let it go. The sky had turned the color of honey, that rich, slow gold that comes just before the stars. Ash remained at the top of the hill, his feet planted in the same spot, but the moment had shifted. Above, Butterfree was just a shape now, a tiny glimmer among dozens of wings, drifting westward, out to sea. He could still spot the pink shimmer of the one flying beside him, their wings moving together, unhurried, weightless. The wind around Ash was gentler now, cooler. It pressed against his cheeks and stirred his hair, as if trying to comfort him. Pikachu stayed close at his side, quiet, still. No bouncing, no sparking. Just soft breaths and listening ears. For a while, Ash didn't move, didn't speak. He was remembering. All of it. Butterfree as a tiny caterpie, shy and slow, curled up in his sleeping bag the first night they met. Its first battle. The time it evolved, wings wide and glowing in the moonlight. The pride in its eyes, when it fought not with anger, but with heart. Every moment fluttered in his memory, like pages turning slowly, softly, carefully, so they wouldn't tear. And now, those wings were flying toward something new, a different story. Ash placed his hand over his chest, not because it hurt, but because it was full. Full of everything Butterfree had given him. Friendship, courage, joy, and the lesson that the best kind of love doesn't try to keep. It lets go so the other can fly. He took a deep breath and looked up again. Just as the flock began to blur into the warm orange sky, Butterfree turned, only for a second. A slow loop in the air. One last look back. It hovered there, far off, but still clear just for Ash. And then it raised its wings in a soft flutter, not unlike a wave. Not goodbye, but thank you. Ash lifted his hand, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. That moment, that tiny glowing moment, stayed still in time. A boy, a Pokémon, a quiet space in the air, where everything they'd been together was held. Then, Butterfree turned back toward the sea, its wings moving slowly but surely, carried by the breeze, and by something even deeper, the promise of what comes next. Ash sat down again. The grass around him was cool. The light was dimming. Pikachu climbed into his lap, resting its small head on his arm. Ash leaned back, his eyes still on the sky, long after Butterfree had disappeared into the dusk. No more words. Just breath. And stillness. And memory. The stars had begun to blink awake. One by one. Tiny glimmers like whispers in the sky. Not loud. Not sudden. Just, appearing. As if they'd been there all along, waiting. Ash lay on his back in the tall grass now. The cliff behind him, the sea far below. Everything was calm. Pikachu curled up on his chest, its breathing soft and even, a little hum in the quiet. Ash's eyes were half-lidded, watching the dark blue above turn deeper, darker, richer like velvet, drawn gently across the sky. He didn't feel heavy. Not the way sadness can sometimes weigh down your chest. No, this was something else. Light, like air, like breath, like wings. He thought of Butterfree, not the goodbye, but the flight, the final flutter. That quiet turn in the air. The way it had looked back without needing to say anything. Ash closed his eyes for a moment. Not asleep, just resting. And in that stillness, he imagined them, Butterfree and her, flying together far above the sea, their wings catching moonlight now instead of sun. There was no more wind up there. Just drift. Just space. Just peace. They didn't need to race. Didn't need to battle. They were just together. Safe. Free. Ash smiled a small, sleepy curve that tugged gently at his lips. It didn't matter how far they flew. Didn't matter if he never saw them again. Because love like that, it doesn't vanish. It settles. It lingers. It becomes a part of the air, a part of the stars, a part of you. And when he looked up again, Ash could almost see it, a tiny shimmer in the night sky. A shape made of light and wings, drifting slowly across the moon. Maybe it was Butterfree. Maybe it was just a dream. But it didn't matter, because the feeling was real. The memory was real. The love was real. Ash yawned softly, his body beginning to sink into the grass. The world around him faded into hush, a lullaby of night sounds, the rustle of trees, the hush of distant waves, and the slow, steady breath of sleep. Pikachu shifted slightly, its tiny paw over Ash's heart, and together they drifted off, not with sadness, not with loss, but with the quiet, certain peace of knowing that love, once shared, never really leaves. It simply flies on. And now, little dreamers, as the stars glow a little brighter and your eyes begin to close, let the flutter of gentle wings carry you into your own peaceful dreams. Remember, love once shared never fades. It simply finds new skies to fly through, quiet skies, soft with clouds, where memories drift like feathers and hearts stay warm forever. Tonight may you dream of moonlit flights, of skies filled with color, and of friendships so strong they stretch across oceans. Sleep well, little one. Butterfree is still flying, and love is still with you. Always, everywhere, even now. Tonight, we begin a tale about a little flame that refused to go out. A flame left out in the cold, still hoping, still waiting. This is the story of Charmander. And how, even in the rain, a single heart can keep burning for someone to believe in. The sky was overcast that day. The wind moved low and slow over the hilltops, and in the distance, clouds gathered in shades of gray. On a lonely rock beneath a slanted tree, a small Pokémon sat with its head bowed, its tail curled in tightly to protect the flame at its tip. Charmander. Its orange scales were soaked with rain. Its body shivered with each gust of wind. But it didn't move, didn't cry out, didn't run for shelter. It waited, still and silent. Eyes always fixed on the winding path below the hill. Because once, not long ago, someone left it there, with the promise that they would return. That promise was all Charmander had. Far below the hill, Ash, Brock, and Misty were walking along the path. Their jackets damp from the drizzle, their steps light on the muddy road. Ash was talking excitedly about something. A new Pokémon he'd read about, maybe a rare one. Misty rolled her eyes. Brock kept one hand over his map to keep it dry. But as they turned a bend near the base of the hill, they saw it just for a moment. A flicker of flame. Faint, small. Did you see that? Ash asked. Brock nodded. Looked like a tail, a fire type. Ash's eyes lit up. Without thinking, he stepped off the road, his feet sinking into wet grass as he made his way up the slope. The rain was heavier up there, the wind louder, but the flame stayed steady, just barely visible under the shelter of the tree. And then Ash saw it. A Charmander, curled up, shivering, but not moving. He stepped closer slowly. "Hey, little guy." Charmander didn't lift its head. Ash kneeled. Raindrops slid down his cheeks and jacket. He reached into his bag and pulled out a cloth, held it gently over the tail flame, trying to block the rain. Charmander opened one eye, then quickly looked away. Ash's voice stayed soft. "We're not here to hurt you. We just saw you sitting here. Are you okay?" Charmander didn't answer. It looked at the path again, still waiting. Misty caught up. She knelt beside Ash. It looked sick. Its tail flame is weak. Brock arrived last, looking concerned. He crouched down, his voice low. "I think he's been here a long time." Ash glanced at his friends. "Let's take it with us. We can help." But Charmander shook its head, weakly. It didn't move, didn't run, just stayed. Brock's face grew serious. "If a Charmander's flame goes out, it won't survive." That made Ash pause. He looked down again, rain dripping from his hair. Charmander was still staring at the path, still waiting. Ash reached slowly into his bag, pulled out a small packet of food, and set it down beside the rock. "If you change your mind, we'll be at the Pokémon Center down the road," he said. He placed the cloth beside the flame again, then stood. He looked at Charmander one last time, then turned, walking slowly down the hill. The others followed. The rain continued. Behind them, on the hill beneath the tree, Charmander blinked slowly. Its tail gave a weak flicker. Its eyes drooped, but it stayed awake, still waiting, still believing. Night began to fall, pulling a blanket of mist across the hills. The sky darkened, clouds heavy with rain that hadn't finished falling yet. On the lonely slope just outside the forest, Charmander still sat beneath the bent tree, still quiet, still waiting. The cloth Ash had left was soaked through now. It clung to Charmander's tail, trying, failing, to protect the flame from the wind. Charmander's eyes were half closed. Raindrops dripped slowly from its snout. Its small arms trembled against its chest. But it didn't leave, didn't give up. Because deep down, it believed. It believed that the trainer who left it there would come back. That if it waited just a little longer, if it stayed just a little stronger, someone would return for it. Someone would care. Down the hill, the lights of the Pokémon Center shone dimly through the fog. Inside, Ash was pacing. "I can't stop thinking about it," he said quietly. The way it was just sitting there. Brock stood by the window. "I don't like it either. The flame was too low. It's in danger out there." Misty sat beside Togepi, who was already drifting to sleep. Maybe its trainer came back. Maybe it's okay now. Ash shook his head. No, it didn't want to leave. It was waiting. For someone. He looked down at Pikachu, who stood near his leg. Pikachu gave a soft cry, barely a whisper. Its ears drooped. It remembered the storm earlier, the rain, the cold. And it remembered Charmander's eyes. Outside, the storm began again. This time heavier. Wind pressed against the windows, making the glass tremble. Charmander opened its eyes slowly, barely able to keep them open. Its tail flame flickered. thin, faint. Each gust of wind dimmed it just a little more. Still it stayed. Still it waited. A distant roll of thunder echoed across the hills. The tree above swayed gently, its leaves dripping in silver threads. Charmander's breath was shallow now. Its claws dug slightly into the wet stone for balance. But just as it was about to slip a sound, footsteps, running, through the wind, through the trees, a flash of yellow, a voice calling out, "Charmander!" Ash. He was soaked from head to toe, his jacket clinging to his arms, his feet splashing through puddles as he ran up the hill again. He dropped to his knees beside Charmander, breathing fast, eyes wide with worry. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I shouldn't have left you." Charmander looked up, weak, uncertain. Ash reached forward. His hands were cold, but gentle. "I don't know who left you here, but I won't. I promise." Charmander's body sagged slightly. Not from pain, but from relief. Ash pulled off his jacket and wrapped it tightly around the small, trembling body. Then he stood, holding Charmander against his chest. Pikachu arrived at his side, panting softly from the climb. It looked up at the bundle in Ash's arms, then gave a quiet chirp. Together they ran back down the hill, the storm chasing them the whole way. Ash didn't stop, didn't rest. He held Charmander close, shielding its tail flame from the wind and rain. The lights of the Pokémon Center drew nearer. Behind them, the hill and the rock and the old bent tree faded into the dark. Charmander didn't look back, because now, for the first time in days, it didn't have to wait alone. Someone had come. Someone had stayed. And the flame, though faint, was still alive. The storm was still whispering outside, rain pattering against the windows, wind brushing gently against the glass. Inside the Pokémon Centers, the light was soft and warm. Like candlelight, like sunrise. Ash pushed open the doors, his arms wrapped around the small, shivering Charmander. Nurse Joy looked up from the counter, her face full of concern. "Oh, no," she said softly. "Bring it here, quickly." Ash moved fast but carefully. He laid Charmander down on a padded table, and Nurse Joy and Chansey worked gently, hands moving in practiced quiet. Pikachu stood close by, watching everything with wide eyes. Charmander barely moved. Its tail flame flickered thin, almost invisible in the bright room. But it was still there, still burning. Nurse Joy placed a heat lamp near the flame, tucked warm blankets around its damp body, and set a soft towel beneath its head. "This little one is lucky," she said kindly. "It's cold, weak, but it held on. That means it's strong." Ash stepped closer. "Will it be okay?" Joy smiled gently. "With rest and warmth, yes." Pikachu hopped onto the bench beside Ash. The two of them sat quietly, watching Charmander breathe in and out, a little easier now. Outside, thunder rumbled again, but softer this time, like it was moving away. Charmander stirred. Its eyes opened slowly, just a sliver. And for the first time, it wasn't looking at the path below the hill. It wasn't waiting. It was looking at Ash. Ash leaned forward. "I'm here," he said in voice low. "You don't have to wait anymore." Charmander blinked. Its tail moved faintly under the lamp, the glow returning, slowly, like a sunrise just beginning to peek over the horizon. Brock and Misty arrived quietly. They stood by the door, watching the quiet scene. No one spoke loudly. No one needed to. The room itself was peaceful, like the silence after a hard cry. Not empty, just calm. Nurse Joy brought a small bowl of warm broth. Chansey held a dropper to Charmander's lips, and Charmander sipped slowly, tiny mouth barely moving, but accepting. Ash watched every drop. When the bowl was empty, and Charmander's head settled back into the towel, Ash reached down slowly and touched its paw. Charmander didn't pull away. Ash's hand stayed there, gentle, still. A quiet promise. Pikachu leaned against Ash's side, its body soft and warm. Outside, the storm began to fade. The wind was now a sigh. The rain, a rhythm. Ash pulled a blanket over his own legs and let his back rest against the wall. The room dimmed for the night. Lights low, machines humming quietly. The Pokémon Center wrapped itself in sleep. Charmander's breathing deepened. Its tail, now a steady orange glow, cast flickering light against the wall, a gentle pulse of life. Ash stayed close. Pikachu stayed closer. And Charmander, who had spent so long alone and cold, finally slept in warmth. Not just from heat, but from care. The kind of warmth that doesn't come from fire, but from being seen, being chosen, being loved. The world was quiet again. No more thunder, no more wind against the windows. Only the hush of a new day, slowly blooming beyond the glass. Inside the Pokémon Center, the lights remained dim, just soft enough to comfort, just bright enough to see the small figure resting peacefully on the padded table. Charmander slept still, but not the restless sleep of worry. This was different. This was calm, safe, warm. The little flame at the tip of its tail glowed steadily, casting a slow-moving shadow on the edge of the blanket. Ash had dozed off beside it, his arms folded across his chest, head tilted gently to one side. Pikachu lay curled at his feet, its tiny body rising and falling in time with Ash's breath. It was the kind of morning where nothing rushed, where time itself moved like a breeze over a quiet pond. Nurse Joy stepped in softly, her footsteps barely making a sound. She looked at the scene, the boy, the Pokémon, and the little tail flame that had survived the storm, and she smiled. Charmander stirred, eyes blinking open slowly. It looked around, not in fear, but in curiosity. This place was different. There was no cold rock, no pounding rain, no waiting, only softness, only care. And the boy, still sitting nearby. Ash woke up moments later, eyes opening gently. He looked at Charmander right away, and when he saw its eyes open, his whole face lit up. "Hey," he said softly. Charmander blinked, and then, for the very first time, tilted its head toward Ash. Not just a glance, a choice. Ash sat forward, his voice quieter than ever. "You're safe now. No one's leaving you behind again." Charmander stared, and slowly, ever so slowly, he reached out a paw. Ash didn't move. He let it happen. And when that tiny paw touched the sleeve of his jacket, he smiled. Pikachu sat up, watching the moment unfold. It padded over to the table, Moidliette, and offered a gentle chirp. Charmander turned its head. Their eyes met, and there was no fear, only quiet understanding. They were both small. Both had waited, and both had found someone who didn't walk away. Nurse Joy came to check the flame. She nodded. "Stronger today," she whispered. "Very strong." Charmander sipped more broth from a cup. Tiny sips. Each one followed by a small flicker of its tail, a rhythm of healing. Ash didn't leave its side, not even when Brock and Misty offered breakfast. He just stayed there, knees folded, smiling every time Charmander blinked at him. And that day, as the sun poured through the windows and filled the room with gold, Charmander did something it hadn't done in a very long time. It smiled. Not big, not bold, but just enough to say, "I'm okay now." The sunlight drifted through the windows, touching the walls like a slow-moving dream. Outside, the trees stood still. Not even the wind stirred the grass. Everything had paused, as if the world was holding its breath, watching this little fire, hoping it would glow brighter. Inside the Pokémon Center, Charmander had moved from the exam table to a soft nest of blankets near the corner. There it lay, curled its tail, tucked carefully to one side, the flame steady and sure. Ash was sitting on the floor nearby, legs crossed, arms resting on his knees. Not speaking, just being there, present. Sometimes silence is the best comfort. Pikachu sat beside him, nibbling gently on a berry, its ears twitching from time to time. Not out of alertness, but peace. Charmander blinked slowly, watching them from its cozy place. There was something different in its eyes now. The sadness was still there, like soft embers under the surface, but around it was something warmer, a glow, a quiet light. Ash pulled something from his bag, small pokeball. He set it on the floor, didn't push it forward, didn't rush, just placed it gently where the sunlight reached it. Charmander looked at it. Its eyes studied the red and white surface, as if remembering a promise once broken, but now offered again, this time without pressure. Ash leaned forward. His voice was calm, not loud, not eager. "We're going to keep moving soon," he said. "There's a lot more road ahead. But only if you want to come with us." Charmander didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, it closed its eyes for a moment, as if listening to something inside a memory, maybe. Or a hope. Then slowly it sat up. The blanket fell from its shoulders, and its little body, still delicate, stood upright. Charmander looked at Pikachu first. Pikachu gave a soft, encouraging nod. A soundless yes. Then it turned to Ash, and took one step, then another, across the soft floor, toward the Pokeball. Its tail flame left a glowing trail, like a warm line through a cold night. It stopped in front of the ball, tilted its head, looked at Ash again, and then touched it. The ball opened with a soft click, and a gentle light surrounded Charmander, drawing it inside. The sphere quivered in Ash's palm once. Then, still, Ash stared down at it, not with excitement, but with quiet awe. "I'll take good care of you," he whispered. The Pokeball gleamed faintly in the morning light. Pikachu leaned against Ash's shoulder, and somewhere deep inside that Pokeball, Charmander rested again. This time not alone, not abandoned, but chosen. A warm breeze stirred outside. The rain was gone. The hill with the bent tree was far behind them now, and ahead a new path, one filled with walking together, with battles, adventures, campfires, laughter, and quiet nights under the stars. Ash stood slowly, tucked the Pokeball close to his chest, and nodded to his friends. It was time to go. But this time, he wasn't walking away from anything. He was walking with someone new. The path was quiet. Leaves rustled above, and sunlight slipped between the branches, and the air was soft with the scent of new beginnings. Ash walked at a calm pace, his backpack light, his thoughts even lighter. Pikachu trotted beside him, and in his pocket rested the Pokeball that now carried a tiny flame. Charmander's flame. Brock and Misty walked just ahead, talking quietly, but not too much. It was one of those days where no one needed to say everything, where silence felt full, not empty. Ash touched the pokeball once more, and for just a moment, he thought he could feel it, a gentle warmth, spreading through his fingertips, like holding a spark. Not hot, just alive. They came to a clearing by a stream. Brock began to unpack lunch. Misty stretched beneath the shade. Ash sat by the water's edge. He opened the pokeball softly, and with a shimmer of light, Charmander appeared. It blinked once at the trees, once at the stream, and then up at Ash. Ash smiled. "You doing okay?" Charmander nodded. It stepped toward the water, dipped one claw in, then looked up at the sky. The sun caught its tail. The flame flickered bright, strong, but gentle. Pikachu joined it by the bank. They sat side by side, watching the clouds drift lazily overhead. Ash leaned back in the grass, folded his hands behind his head, and let the light settle on his face. No battles today, no rushing ahead. Just stillness, just peace. He thought of that storm again. The way the rain had fallen without end. The way Charmander had sat in it, quiet, loyal, brave. And know how far they'd come. It wasn't just a rescue. It wasn't just a battle won against time. It was a beginning. A quiet bond, forged not in power, but in care. In warmth. In trust. Charmander looked back at Ash, its eyes soft. Then it stepped forward again, rested its small head on Ash's knee, and sighed. That soft, satisfied sigh of a soul no longer waiting. A sigh that meant, "I'm home." Ash reached down, ran a hand over the little one's head, and closed his eyes. The clouds drifted. The grass whispered. And the tail flame glowed beside him, steady, mole, and safe. And now, you can close your eyes too. Let the flame of this little story keep burning quietly beside you. No rain, no cold, just warmth, friendship, a little fire that never goes out. Sleep easy now, traveler. Your journey can wait. The stars are watching. And Charmander is sleeping too. Good night.